a government policy sitting on a skillet, whether anyone asked for it or not. In the winter of 1974, a woman named Loretta Vance stood at the stove of a third-floor walk-up on Chicago's South Side. Her husband had been laid off from the steel mill 6 weeks earlier, and the check from the union hadn't come. 4 children sat at a folding table behind her, and the icebox held exactly what it always held in a bad month: a heel of bread, a jar of mayonnaise, half a pound of ground something, and whatever the corner store would still put on credit. By Friday, she'd fed that family 7 straight suppers out of almost nothing, and not one of those children ever went to bed hungry. This is what I do. I document what never made it into any cookbook. The meals built out of layoffs, empty pockets, and a mother's refusal to let it show at the table. Before we're through, you'll hear about a sandwich the federal government handed out by the millions, a fish dinner made entirely from a can, and a dish some families swear by to this day, even though it started as pure desperation. My name is Uncle Elijah, and this is the next entry in my journal. 10 meals Black families made when the money simply wasn't there, starting with the one that surprised even me. Number 10, hot water cornbread. No eggs, no milk. Sometimes no oven even required. Just cornmeal, salt, and boiling water stirred together into a thick paste, shaped into patties by hand, and fried in a skillet with whatever grease was on hand. It came together in under 15 minutes with ingredients that never ran out, because cornmeal was cheap and it kept. Families leaned on hot water cornbread, specifically on the days closest to payday, when everything else in the kitchen had already been used up. It wasn't glamorous, and nobody pretended it was, but crisp on the outside, soft in the center, it filled a stomach for pennies, and it never once failed a family that needed it. Number 9, Vienna sausages and saltine crackers. By the mid-20th century, canned goods had become a lifeline for families with almost no refrigeration and even less cash, and a can of Vienna sausages. Small, pre-cooked, packed in broth, cost next to nothing, and needed no cooking at all. Split open on a sleeve of saltines. Sometimes with a few drops of hot sauce, it became a full meal in under a minute. This was the food of emergencies, the end of the pay period, an unexpected bill, a mother stretching what little she had one more day. Children who grew up on it still remember the specific sound of that can opener and the particular comfort of a meal that asked nothing of anyone and never let them down. Number 8, cornmeal mush. Cooked low and slow into a thick porridge, eaten hot for breakfast or, more resourcefully, poured into a pan, chilled overnight, sliced, and fried the next morning into crisp golden cakes. One 5-pound sack of cornmeal could stretch across an entire week of breakfast for a large family, and the leftover, fried version meant nothing from the pot ever went to waste. Families leaning on tight budgets through the middle of the century built entire mornings around this dish, sometimes with a little syrup on top if there was syrup to spare, sometimes with nothing at all. It asked for almost no money and almost no skill, and it delivered exactly what a hungry household needed before a long day of work. Now, it's worth pausing here, because a lot of what's on this list didn't happen only in the rural South. Between the 1940s and the 1970s, millions of Black families left the South for cities like Chicago, Detroit, and Cleveland chasing factory work. And for a while, that work paid. But factory towns run on factory jobs, and when mills and plants started cutting shifts and closing lines through the 1970s, entire neighborhoods lost their income almost overnight. The result was a strange kind of hunger. The meals didn't change because the recipes were forgotten. They changed because the money simply left the room, sometimes more than once in a single generation. Keep that in mind, because it explains almost everything left on this list. Number 7, souse, sometimes called hog head cheese. Meat picked from a hog's head and feet, simmered for hours until tender, then packed into a loaf pan with the cooking liquid and chilled until it set into a firm, sliceable jelly, seasoned sharp with vinegar and hot pepper. Like so much on this list, souse came from a part of the animal nobody with money wanted, which made it available and made it cheap. It kept for days without spoiling once it was set, sliced cold for sandwiches or served with crackers, stretching a single hog's head into meals across an entire week. It's not something you'll find on many tables today, but for generations, it was dependable, and dependable mattered more than almost anything else. Number 6, liver and onions. Beef or chicken liver sold for a fraction of the cost of any other cut, and sliced thin, dredged in flour, and fried hard alongside a pile of sweet, slow-cooked onions. It became one of the most common weeknight suppers in tight-budget black households through the middle of the century. It wasn't anyone's favorite. Plenty of children pushed it around their plate before finally eating it, because the alternative was going without. But liver is dense with iron and protein, and mothers who couldn't always explain nutrition science understood, through pure trial, that this cheap, unglamorous cut kept their children steady and strong through weeks when better cuts simply weren't in the budget. Number 5. Turnip greens and pot liquor. Turnips grew easily and cheaply in almost any southern garden, and their greens, simmered for hours with a small piece of fatback or a ham hock, released every bit of their nutrition straight into the cooking water. That broth. The pot liquor carried vitamin C, vitamin K, and iron, and families who understood its value drank it straight from a cup or soaked their cornbread in it rather than pour a single drop down the drain. This dish followed black families wherever money got tight, from rural gardens in the 1930s to city stovetops decades later, because a bunch of greens cost almost nothing and fed a family twice over. Once as a vegetable, once as a broth. Number 4. Salmon croquettes. A single can of salmon, mixed with egg, a little flour or crushed crackers, onion, and seasoning, then shaped into patties and fried until golden. This dish stretched one inexpensive can of fish into enough patties to feed an entire family, sometimes with leftovers for the next day's lunch. Canned salmon held a strange advantage over fresh fish for tight-budget households. It didn't spoil sitting in a cupboard, so a family could buy it on a good week and hold on to it until a bad one arrived. Salmon croquettes became such a fixture of Sunday dinner in black households across the country that for many families, it wasn't a fallback meal at all. It became tradition, served with pride long after money stopped being quite so tight. Number 3. Smothered cabbage. A whole cabbage cost only a few cents and could feed a large family for 2 meals or more. Sliced thin and cooked down slowly in a skillet with a small piece of fatback, onion, and just enough water to keep it from scorching, until it collapsed into something soft, rich, and almost sweet. It was one of the most dependable vegetable dishes a tight-budget household could make, because cabbage kept for weeks without refrigeration and asked for almost nothing beyond time and a low flame. Paired with a scoop of rice or a slice of cornbread, it turned a single vegetable into a meal that felt, despite everything, complete. Number 2. Sugar sandwich. 2 slices of bread, a thin scrape of butter or lard if there was any, and a spoonful of sugar sprinkled across the top. This was what got made for children on the very worst days, when the cupboard held almost nothing else. It cost almost nothing, and it was sweet enough that most children never fully understood, at the time, exactly how bare things had gotten. Mothers made this one quietly and rarely spoke of it afterward, because admitting there was nothing else in the house wasn't something families did out loud. The bread did the talking, one thin, sweet slice at a time. And number 1, not the richest dish on this list, and not something anyone chose off a menu: the government cheese sandwich. Starting in the early 1980s, the federal government began distributing millions of pounds of surplus processed cheese, stockpiled for decades to prop up dairy prices, directly to families on welfare, food stamps, and Social Security, through a program that handed out 5-pound blocks in plain cardboard boxes. For countless black families in cities and rural counties alike, that block of cheese, melted between 2 slices of bread in a skillet, became one of the single most common suppers of the entire decade. It wasn't hidden. Everyone on the block knew exactly which families were getting the cheese, and for a lot of children, that visibility stung in a way canned salmon or turnip greens never did. I put it at number 1, not because it was anyone's favorite, but because more black families ate this exact sandwich in this exact decade than almost anything else on this entire list. A government policy sitting on a skillet, whether anyone asked for it or not. So tell me, which of these did your family make, and which one still shows up on your table now, money or not? I read every comment, and half of what lands in this journal comes straight from the families who lived it. If these stories matter to you, do something small about it. Like this video, subscribe to the journal, and I'll keep pulling these meals up out of the ground where history left them buried. Because every single dish on this list says the same true thing. Money can leave a house in an instant, but the people in that kitchen found a way to keep everyone fed anyway. And that, more than any recipe, is what actually got passed down.